Hello students, welcome to my video. Now in this video I'm going to talk about the grammar discussion, still with the same topic, the computer uses. Okay, first of all, I forget to mention in my previous video that the reason that I am separating the grammar discussion with the main topic is because to make it easier for uploading it to YouTube, but it is only happening on the first week. Okay, so let's check the materials. So as you can see, the outline for this video is going to be about the past tense and present perfect tense. You may have discussed this many times in your other English classes, but we are going to see it from the perspective of IT students. So later on, you're going to execute this grammar on the IT basis, on the IT knowledge. So let's have a look. Okay, so have a look at these sentences over here. There are three sentences of present perfect. I've scanned in about a third of these photographs. I've organized the paintings into themes. I've added a soundtrack. Now, with these sentences, why do you think the speaker doesn't use this past simple? Rather than saying I've scanned in, why doesn't the speaker use I scanned in about a third of these photographs? I organized the paintings into themes. I added a soundtrack. Do you have any idea? If you do, grab your notebook and then your pen, write down your answer in your notebook. We will discuss it in the synchronous meeting. Now, you also want to read this slide by yourself, have a good understanding on what is a past tense and present perfect tense. Now, we have a look at this one. This is the example of the difference between past tense and present perfect tense. She studied computer last year. She has studied computer since last year. Now, what does it mean by the first sentence? The first sentence involves a finished period of time, last week. So that means he finished it last week. Now, for the second sentence, she has studied computer since last year, then maybe she still continue her studying until this year or maybe in the near future. Okay, so it's not a finished period of time. So when it is not a finished period of time, we use present perfect tense, just like in the second sentence. Okay, now have a look over here in this text. I want you to have a read by yourself, and I actually have bolded the grammars. And please, later on in our synchronous meeting, I want you to explain why do you think these words, these verbs, or these tenses are used for this information. Okay, explain later on in the synchronous meeting. Take a note, pause this recording, take a note, and then later we will discuss. Now we will go to the technical information on what past tense is. I bet you all know what is the formula for past tense. There you go. For the pattern in the active, subject plus verb 2. The passive is subject plus was or verb plus verb 3 plus the object. Okay. For example, in 1950s, people used typewriters to write letters. In 1950s, typewriters were used to write letters. You may also want to know about the time signal in the past tense. So normally, in a past tense, they use time signal of when, some years ago, some time ago, during this century. So there's a period of time, last year, last century, last minute, in 2019, in 2003, in the last afternoon, for example, or yesterday, 2 days ago. Okay, so that is a very clear time signal to mention that this is actually a past tense sentence. Now for present perfect tense, as you can see over here, the two patterns are subject plus has or have plus verb 3, and if it is passive, subject plus has or have plus been plus verb 3 plus the object for the passive sentence. Okay, you can see over there, users have used keyboard since the first invention of computer, or keyboard has been used since the first invention of computer. I don't think I need to explain to you why I use have or why I use has over here. But let me just make it clear. For if you want to use, if the subject over here is a singular, then you should use has. If the subject is a plural, then you use have, except for the subject I. Okay, that's the easiest way to understand it. Next, for the time signal, the usual time signal for present perfect tense will be for and since, the most common one. Now for the first practice, I want you to grab your notebook and your pen, and I want you to answer this question. Read these sentences, and then the best way to answer this type of questions will be about looking at the time signal first. If you think that the time signal indicates something, then you can pick the proper or the correct tenses for this specific sentence. Okay, and then after that, after you have finished answering, make sure you also understand what does it mean by the sentence. Not the translation. Of course, you need to know the translation, but you also need to know what does it mean by the sentence. Like the sentence when I mentioned about she studied computer last week, she has studied computer since last week. Okay, so pay attention to that difference for these sentences. So you're not only answering the grammar, but you also understand the meaning of that grammar use. Okay? Now for this exercise, I want you to go back again to the question in the first video about the vocabulary. There are 5 vocabularies over here, and have a look at this. What I want you to do with this is I want you to use this vocabulary to create a sentence, but I also want you to integrate the grammar that we have learned today, which is about present perfect tense and past tense. Okay, for example, with the word JavaScript, you see over here, IT students studied JavaScript in the first semester. What does it mean? That means the IT students have done it in the past. Okay, so we are using past tense in this sentence. Now have a look at the vocabulary again and try to make your own sentence by integrating the correct grammar. Okay, and it really depends on how you want to explain the meaning of these words using the grammar that you have learned. Okay, I won't say there is a specific grammar for one vocabulary. It really depends on how you want to explain the meaning in the sentence. Okay, so that will be the end. Now, for the individual practice on grammar, you can click on this link. It is very helpful, and I've used it for my students. They really like it, and it's really helpful. Yeah, so click on the link later on. Now, for the next week and the next video, I'm going to talk about computer architecture. Okay, so that should be all for this. Thank you very much. If you have questions, keep it, or you can actually ask me in the WhatsApp group. Okay, thank you very much for listening to my video. See you in the synchronous meeting. Goodbye.